Sueños to Success. I'm your host, Dr. Victor Rios. For those of you who may not know, Sueños means dreams in Spanish. This podcast is about turning dreams into success, however you define it. I started this series to highlight powerful stories from real everyday people who've overcome incredible odds, adversity, trauma, poverty, and are now shaping their own version of success. Throughout this podcast, you'll hear from a wide range of guests. Some have built wealth and are now teaching others how to do the same. Some are dedicated teachers leading the way for the next generation. Others are college students who've lived through intense challenges, violence, instability, generational poverty, and are now thriving as scholars at top universities as first-generation students. Jose Anzaldo is one of those students, a resilient young man who overcame significant obstacles growing up, picking lettuce in the fields with his mother. Jose is now a full ride scholar at UC Berkeley, embodying what it means to turn sueños into success. You'll hear from others like Demonte Thompson, a former foster youth from Compton, who's now a PhD student at UCLA, researching how to support young people in the foster care system. You'll even hear from Kendrick Lamar's teacher, Mr. Regis Inge, who had a big influence in teaching Kendrick poetry in 7th grade. It's a powerful story you can't miss. And you'll hear deeply personal episodes too, like a conversation I recorded with my own mother where I open up about the pain of abandonment in my childhood. We talk through trauma, depression, and even postpartum depression with honesty and compassion. What sets Sueños to Success apart is that these stories aren't just inspiring, they're grounded in research. Each episode explores the social issues at the heart of these journeys, along with evidence-based strategies for healings, resilience, and transformation. Whether it's mentoring, community support, education, or mental health care, we'll talk about what works and why. Throughout these episodes, you'll be reminded that measures of success aren't one size fits all. For some, success looks like financial independence. For others, it's a giving back to their community or being able to show up for their families. Whatever it looks like for you, Sueños to Success is here to explore how we get there and how we take care of ourselves along the way. Thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Victor Rios, and I hope you enjoy the journey. Welcome back to Real with Rios, the Sueños to Success podcast, where we spotlight stories that turn struggle into strength and life challenges into purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Victor Rios, and today's episode is both personal and powerful. I want to dive deep into a topic that's important, and that's about parenting, but not just how to parent our children, but thinking about how we were parented, how we were raised, and how did that cause us to raise our kids the same or differently? And then importantly connected to that for me is how do we help the next generation live with purpose? And right now, today, I'm blessed to have what I consider one of the world's top experts on purpose. On top of that, he's someone that's deeply thought about family and legacy and supporting others with as his full-time career to understand financial literacy and to understand what it means to make sure to not just make money, but do something with that money. He's the founder of Mission Wealth, the man who somehow balances money smarts with life wisdom, Seth Streeter. Seth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Victor. So happy to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate you coming out. And I know, I want to talk a little bit about sort of what led you into the field you're in, but also you continue to evolve and you help, in my eyes, you're helping people reach enlightenment, reach purpose, reach understanding of how they could live their life better. And that's an honor to see you out there doing that work throughout the globe, really. But let's take it back a little bit to the beginning. I mean, here we are talking about kind of how we're parented, and wanted to get a sense of, because I know you're a very hardworking person. You've established a organization that it's like, I think above the $10 billion,
Billion.
12 billion, supporting um, people with investing their money, and and people trust you. I'm just going to say it in a very kind of little way. Uh, People trust you in a collective way with $12 billion of their money. And the people that you've hired, right, are also trusted with this collective money. And y'all help people kind of continue to make sure that that money's invested right. And on top of that, you've taken it as your personal mission to make sure that you're not only investing money, but you're finding a way to find purpose in life.
Yes, indeed. Well, and it didn't start out that way. It started out that, like many of us, I thought that success was wealth in the material sense. So if you make a lot of money, then you'll be successful. And then I started to see firsthand that some of these families that had huge homes were actually kind of miserable. And I did a lot of service trips in Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, and I saw people that literally had almost nothing that were quite content and fulfilled. And so I kind of woke up and said, like, what is wealth? And I came up with a broader definition across 12 dimensions to say, hey, wealth is a lot more than just money. And as I started to lead these workshops and conversations around purpose, I was simply just teaching what I needed to learn, right? I needed to get off that kind of rat race wheel, that scripted path of success up that one mountain, and start to look at my life in a more holistic sense. And it really has uplifted me to try to help others kind of learn how they can have a more fulfilled life. And it's not just always chasing money.
Man, let me reflect a little bit of, you're traveling the world and you're seeing people live a life of purpose, but maybe not a life of a lot of financial abundance.
Yeah,
But they have other kinds of abundance.
exactly.
What's that abundance besides the money?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, I think it always starts with our health, like how your body looks, feels, and functions. I mean, I was actually working with a guy, I remember this is years ago, but he was worth $100 million. And I went with him to his office. The elevator broke, and so we had to go up 2 flights of steps to get to his office. And he was so heavy, he was so winded, he couldn't go up the 2 flights of steps without stopping and like catching his breath. And then as I got to know him, he was saying, yeah, I travel all the time. I miss my daughter's, sporting events, and my marriage isn't doing so well. And I have so much anxiety. I take sleeping pills to sleep at night. I remember having this meeting going, God, I'm going to meet this guy worth $100 million. This is like 15 years ago. I was like so excited for this appointment. As I started to see his life firsthand, I'm like, this guy's not wealthy. He can't go up 2 flights of steps. He has a poor, estranged relationship with his family. He has anxiety. He has to take sleeping pills to sleep every night. So I started to say, like, what is wealth? And it's not, just money. It's relationships. It's having a sense of purpose. It's how much fun do you have in your life. It's a sense to a framework beyond yourself, some type of spiritual essence. It's having a career where you feel appreciated and fulfilled. There's a bunch of dimensions that we can get into, but it's a lot more than just money.
That's powerful. I mean, even me growing up, right, and seeing, my family didn't have much money. We were broke, we're scrambling. Mom's got 2 jobs. I ended up, putting my way through college by being a busboy, and then a waiter, and then uh, buying and selling used cars, that kind of thing. I got myself through college, and just working like that all my life, and then seeing people around me, they started to get a little bit successful in terms of money wise. But I recognized that they were, as you say, maybe losing their health, maybe not connected to their family. Maybe they were so busy chasing that money that they ended up losing their soul.
Exactly.
And just seeing that across the board in our society today, it really is a crisis that we're so busy chasing that money. Money's important.
It is.
Don't get me wrong. We all need some good, financial literacy. But at the end of the day, if we're not able to stay connected with family, have good health, a good lifestyle where we're taking care not just of ourselves, but of other people.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, community is a top indicator for allowing us to feel a sense of thriving
Mm-hmm.
and not just surviving, chasing that
Exactly.
money.
And a sense of belonging. A lot of
Yeah.
people feel lonely as they might have a lot of money, but they don't have those relationships. So having a sense of belonging, a sense of community, and to feel like you're contributing in some way. At the end of the day, we want to help others lift up in order for us to have that kind of sense of wholeness. So it's
Mhm.
good that we can learn that, and hopefully you don't have to wait as long, for many people to learn it. Some people never get there until really late in life, and hopefully, these young people can get exposed to these types of conversations. They can realize, hey, a balanced approach can actually make you wealthier than if you just put your head down and just grind to make the dollar.
Yeah, and many of us grew up with that working class ethic. We got our parents, our family, like work hard, work hard.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make you work hard. I'm gonna teach you hard work. I know you grew up that way with a dad that
100%.
was always making you work hard.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, my family, they were all farmers growing up, and so my mom and dad wanted my brother and I to learn the farming work ethic, and my dad also was in the military before he had us. So he had the military kind of authoritarian coupled with the farming work ethic as their main influences. And so my brother and I were raised, my dad got us up every morning, get up, people die in bed. So we'd have to get up because we always had chores, and we had horses and pigs to feed and stalls to clean and turkeys and weeding, and we always had a lot of chores, and we had to work throughout that time. So like you, I worked throughout high school, I worked throughout college, uh, and it was great in a lot of ways. Like, I'm grateful for what I learned and how to be resourceful and how to have that second gear when you need it. Uh, but I'd say the downside was our measure of worth was really being productive. So I was raised to think if I'm kicking ass, school, sports, student government, at my jobs, weeding, then I'm enough. Then I'm worthy of my, parents' affection. And that's a slippery slope because I was raised to think I could always do better. I got 1B in high school and I was actually grounded. He's like, you can do better. So that, in one hand, they helped me be a high achiever with that. And they love me too. But the way they thought that they could best love and show that love to my brother and I was through helping us, achieve and grind, and early bird catches the worm, and no pain, no gain, and all those philosophies. Don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about. That's how we were raised, and I love my parents, and I'm grateful for all the ways that they worked hard and showed us the way. But I definitely tried to do things a little bit differently with my kids.
Yeah, and I know you have in my book, very successful kids. They're thriving and doing well, and we'll mention that in a little bit of what they're up to. But just thinking for me, sharing that story, right? Thinking about the ways in which I was raised, and I had a single mom, no dad around. So I ended up learning from my mom, you're going to work hard. And, school's important, but more important is money.
Mm.
And so if school's not making you money, you can find a way to make money,
Yeah.
or you do both. And so she always kind of was trying to figure out whether she should invest in us, her kids getting an education, or us going to work. And that was always like a conflict in her life.
Yeah.
She was like, I need you guys to help me with the bills, but I also know you guys need an education. And she had a third grade education. So like my mom really didn't understand the school system and the education system. So her notion of hard work was always kind of like with your body, making that, at the time, the minimum wage is $4.25 an hour. And that's what she instilled in us. Like, go make that $4.25 an hour, help me out with the bills.
Mhm.
And so we were kind of constantly having to do both. And so in many ways she was authoritarian, but at the same time, because she didn't know how to work the system and understand the system, she was also kind of very loose in terms of parenting, and kind of, all right, help me out, but then do whatever you need to do to make it.
Yeah.
And that combination of parenting, I think, had a big impact on me because, on the one hand, I did learn to work hard, but on the other, I didn't have a lot of supervision. So then I got to do whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
And that ended up turning out that I could learn from the streets how to make money fast and easy. And if no one was employing me in the regular job market, I could find ways to make money
Yeah.
in the underground economy. So that's what led me into trouble as a teenager. And of course, those were choices I made, but definitely just not having that parental guidance around. So as I got older and I started to think about how I would raise my own kids, I always thought, I got to find a different way to raise kids. So
Yeah.
how did you change it? How did you change your parenting style compared to how you were raised?
Mhm. I just wanted to touch on what you said before, which is, we are the company we keep. And so your exposure was the hustle of the streets, was how you can make some money and have that autonomy that your mom taught you to have. And so thinking about the people we spend the most time with and how that shapes us, how curious we are, how ambitious we are, how healthy we are, is really a huge factor in shaping our trajectory in life. So I don't blame you for that, because that was your mentor group, frankly. So how can we build our own mentor group to help shape the person we want to become? So for me as a parent, I was raised to have very high expectations in myself, and I did have high expectations for my kids. So that was one kind of carry forward that I had from my parents. I wanted my kids to do well in school and to be, good citizens and to volunteer and to, be a leader. But where I was different, and it was also a different time. I went through a tough divorce when my son wasn't quite a year old and my daughter was 2.5. So my kids are under 1 and 3 when I went through this divorce. And it was it really affected kind of how I parented, because I didn't want to have ever a nanny or sitters. I did it myself 50%, and then eventually I had full custody of my daughter. So a big chunk of my life was like being an active parent, and I wanted to be present for them. I wanted to be hands-on with them. I wanted them to know that I had the softer side of me, because my dad always, I knew, loved me, but he loved me through kind of an iron fist. And I wanted my kids to, see me cry or give them a hug or be more playful, be more childlike in some ways. So I think that's where I was different. I was willing to be at their level in some ways. I was also the parent that had a lot of their friends always come to our house. So I got to know their peers, and that really helped make a big impact, because as they became 13, 14, I think kids are more shaped by their friends than they are by their parents. So I had that strong foundation with their friends that I could be part of their lives, through high school and beyond. So as a parent, I wanted to lead by example. And I also wanted to give them a lot of exposure. So I took my kids with me when I would go volunteer, when I would, I'd bring them to work. I would have them meet my diverse friends, including yourself. I'd want them to meet all walks of life so they could kind of have a broader perspective than what they might just get through their peer group. So I'd say leading by example, being present, being playful, and having a little sense of humility with them, but also making sure that they knew I had high expectations as well.
That's powerful. And that tells me that you can carry with you some of the stuff that you learned growing up, but you can let go of the stuff that didn't serve you well.
Yeah.
And it's the same with me. Like, I taught my kids to work hard because that's how I was taught. But I always promised myself that I would be a present father. So I was at every one of their games. Not only was I at their games, like, I didn't grow up with any organized sport, but for my daughters, I became a soccer coach for 8 years.
Yeah. Me too. I was right there with you, and a ref.
And a ref, me too.
AYSO,
Hey,
baby.
those parents are crazy when you're a
Oh,
ref.
seriously, man.
And then I never played baseball, but I became a baseball coach from age 5 for Marco all the way to last year, age 14.
That's awesome.
And it was because not only did I want to be present, but I wanted to be fully there, experiencing what they were going through, rather than being absent, which is the opposite of what I had. Right,
Yeah.
I had absence in terms of parents, and I think that allowed me to really not just parent my own children, but go back to little Victor and let little Victor know, hey, you're okay. You turned out
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because a lot of us growing up, we run into traumas and we never resolve them. And then we end up lashing out at our loved ones or at the world, because we still have those traumas and we don't know how to regulate ourselves. And it doesn't matter how much money you make, if you haven't learned to self-regulate,
Yeah.
you end up really destroying other people and destroying yourself.
Acting out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question on that. I know this is your podcast show, but what advice would you give to little Victor? If you could go back to him today, what advice would you tell him?
Oh, if I could go back to little Victor,
Yeah.
man, I would tell him, look, don't be so fatalistic. Don't believe the lie that the world's going to be better without you. Don't believe the lie that you're a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And don't believe the lie that you're a loser, because that was the lie I had been told about myself by everyone in my environment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the lie I told myself.
Yeah.
And so I would tell him, hey, little Victor, man, don't believe those lies, because one day, man, you're gonna be looking back and you're gonna be seeing that your two daughters went to college and grad school and are now successful um, professionals.
Hmm.
You're gonna have a son in high school that's a baseball player and a water polo player, and you're gonna have a 25 year marriage where your partner really supports you and you support her. Like, pretty much telling little Victor, like, not only should you not be fatalistic, but know that if you're hopeful, hope will come to you.
Yeah.
It'll come your way. So
It's
that,
beautiful.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, because thinking of ways to make sure that even children today that are going through a lot, we're in a society where we see children struggling, whether, like you said, parents are divorced,
Yeah.
or parents are just not around, or even the ones that, are living in poverty, or the ones whose parents are getting, snatched away right now in our
Yeah.
times, right? With the immigration rates, like, there's so much trauma children are going through, and just to let them know, look, we're going to be making sure that we're here as a community to support you,
Hmm.
and we want you to know that, have some hope, because in the future things might get brighter for you,
Hmm.
and that balance of working hard and then having community around you to support you
Yeah.
is so important. You said something powerful about your pops, and you said, he loved me, but he loved me with an iron fist. Let's go back to little Seth. Like, how did little Seth feel? Like, what would little Seth want instead of that iron fist?
I'd want him to say, Seth, I'm so proud of you. Um, you're enough, son. I see how hard you're working. You're doing great at school, and you're such a good brother and son and friend. And, there's nothing you have to do for me to love you. I took on, and I can't just blame it on him. I started playing the tape that I was only lovable when I kicked ass, right? When I was able to be productive, when I was able to, get student body president or whatever it was. And I would go back and say, Seth, there's nothing you have to do to be enough. You are lovable in your essence, and I'm proud of you. Just be you. You're different than me. You're different than your brother. I was a unique kid. Just do you, and I would love to have him just play with me and not just always feel like there's more I should do. Because he'd come home from work, and we always had chores after school. And I would I'd get up early, do chores, go to school, come back. I had chores that he'd leave by my cereal bowl, weed the orchard, whatever. He'd come home from work before we had dinner. He'd come in, and we'd go out to the orchard, and he would look and see if we did the weeding right. And he'd go get the hoe. He'd go, get under the roots. You got to get under the roots. So whatever I did, I always felt like I didn't do it right. So it would be him just saying, you did so much right. And I know he loved me. I know he still loves me. And we have a beautiful relationship because he softened in his 80s. And now, there's been some forgiveness and understanding on both sides. So it would be more about you're enough without having to do anything.
That's beautiful. Yeah, sometimes we have to be the parent to our parents sometimes, because
Yeah.
again, they must have, like, my mom would, beat us with extension cords,
Oh, yeah.
big belts, all kinds of stuff, whatever she could find.
Hmm.
And she would always say this to us. She would say, I hit you the way I hit you, because how I grew up is they would hit us like if we were animals. Como animalitos. Nos pegaban como animalitos, right? And I'm like, yeah, mom, but we're not animalitos, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, she had to learn later on in, like, our reconciliation with each other. And I did a podcast with her too, by the way,
Wow.
where we talked about these things, these matters. And she had to learn, like, oh yeah, like, you've taught me a lot about parenting. And it's that same thing with little Victor. Like, maybe it was too late. Maybe it was too late. Like, I grew up and then she never was able to go back. But I could go back with her,
Yeah.
and in the conversation, little Victor starts to feel better
Yeah.
about this.
And I like to think about listening to ourselves versus talking to ourselves. Like what happens oftentimes in life is we listen to ourselves when we have a certain voice that's usually not kind. Like, fucking you idiot, why'd you get that wrong? You could do better. And instead, how would you talk to a best friend? If your best friend fell down or lost their job, you're like, you got this, man. Like, I believe in you. You're going to be fine, man. Get back up. You got this. But we don't speak to ourselves that way. And so learning to speak to ourselves the way we'd want to be spoken to help us be a better version, instead of listening to that voice that typically doesn't serve us, is one way that we can self-parent and self-regulate. So think about speaking to yourself as if you're your own best friend. And what would he need to hear? What would she need to hear in order to actually get through this tough time? Instead of playing the tape that maybe a parent or a teacher has spoken to you, rewire it into what the ideal coach would say to you from a place of love.
That's profound, man. So let's break it down. So I'm gonna tell you how I understand this idea of self-parenting, and then you tell me. So for me, self-parenting is, let's say you grew up missing some kind of parenting, whether you were a foster kid, you had no parents, or whether you had a single mom or a single dad, or you had both parents, but they were strung out on drugs and they didn't parent you right, or you had, both parents are wealthy, but they decided to raise you through the nanny, which a lot of our friends
Yeah.
have gone through that, right? I know a few that were raised by their nannies, and their parents were globetrotting with their money. So let's say you missed something, right? Or someone didn't parent you right. Today, as adults or as young adults, we can self-parent because we can, as you say, rewire how we talk to ourselves. Maybe our parent talked to us like my mom would call me every single word you can use to call someone dumb. And in Spanish, there's a million ways to call someone
Right.
dumb. Say burro, menso, pendejo, idiota. And then, by the way, it evolves. It's like Pokemon. It's like you could be a little burro, or burrito, burro, burrote. It's like different evolutions of
Right.
of dumb. And I believed it all, right? And now in the self-parenting, I'm like, wait, you're not gonna tell that to your kids, so you don't tell that to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And self-parenting, I think, is such a powerful tool, and I don't think we use it enough.
Right. Right. I mean, I've learned a lot about neuroplasticity, which I find fascinating. And a great analogy I have for neuroplasticity, which is just how our brain wires and fires in kind of repeated ways, is if you walk to a tall field of grass, the first time you went through that field, you might say, okay, I'm going to walk at a diagonal through that field. And then when you came back to that field, you probably walk in that same diagonal path because the grass was a little bit pushed down. And then eventually you go back again, you walk, and pretty soon it's dirt and you just go down that path, right? So that self-speak in an unkind way, burrito, then is leading us down this path of always thinking we're dumb.
Yeah.
And so how can we hit pause, having the awareness for the first moment we start to hear that limiting belief, that self-sabotaging language, because our thoughts become our words, become our actions. It starts with thoughts, then it becomes words, then it becomes our actions. So we have to catch the thought. The thought will still come when we're being unkind to ourselves. We have the ability to hit, before walking down that field, that same path, to think, I'm going to go this way through the grass. I'm going to have this different word to then allow me to have this different action. So it's having awareness to catch ourselves, and we'll do it over and over again because it's pretty ingrained in us. Even at a young age, it gets pretty ingrained quickly. But knowing that we have the ability to be the own producer, author, director, and actor in the movie of our life. And how do you want to be? Do you want to be a villain, a victim, or a hero? And write the script that's going to help you be the person you want to be. Catch yourself, walk through the grass in a different way, and then you can become a completely different person based on the tape and the kind of language and the actions that you want to have in your life.
Yeah, that's powerful. I, growing up, remember me saying to little Victor, "Hey, man, stop being fatalistic. Stop believing the lie you're dumb or stupid or a loser." I would look in the mirror and be like, "Man, you ugly. Man, you stupid. Man." Like, I would do that all the way through my teenage years. And then now I look at the mirror and I'm like, "Hey, man, you got this. I believe in you. Hey, man, your hands up." And nothing has changed. I still got the same face, man. I still fail, but I don't believe I'll fail. And that's important for us to really utilize as a strategy, that you wake up and you look at that mirror every day and you say to yourself, "You got this. I believe in you. You're the one that's going to make this world a better place." And start letting go of those ideas that, maybe someone else instilled in you. You're not good enough,
And I want to share something. I know your audience is, and a lot of these families are kind of struggling. And I have the privilege of leading retreats for, CEOs from around the world. And a recent one I did in Mexico, I had 28 CEOs, and I had a program where I had them stand across from each other. So there's 14 people facing 14 people, And I had them do a 15-second eye gaze in silence. So they're just looking at each other's eyes, which for a lot of people is uncomfortable. And then I'd had them prior write down the 5 biggest limiting beliefs, the meanest things they ever say about themselves, and put them on stickers on their chest. So people put stuff down like I'm a complete fraud, I'm a horrible mother, I'm not. If it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't have this job. Some are talking about I was raped when I was 14 and I've been shamed in my body. Like the deepest secrets that these people have, they put them on these stickers on their chest. And so I have them look at each other for 15 seconds, and then they have 15 seconds to read each other's stickers. And in silence, they acknowledge each other and they go to the next person. And they do that 27 times. So you have 28 CEOs from around the world, with thousands of employees of all different ethnicities, all different backgrounds, and every single person's carrying something that you wouldn't believe, some limiting belief that they still beat themselves up about. So it's not just people from childhoods. It's people that you assume, oh, they've got all the gifts in the world, and they're still carrying these heavy rocks. And it's kind of crazy because if we were sitting by a fire and there was a hot coal and I said, Victor, open your hand. So open your hand, Victor. And if I had a hot coal and I set it from the fire into your hand, what would you do the second that you're like, ow.
Yeah, drop
But what do we do with these beliefs? We sit there and hold on to them. And we just let this hot coal sizzle on our hands. So seeing even these leaders and, of course, children and all people have these things that they're holding on to that just don't serve them anymore. It's such an opportunity for us to help each other let it go.
Yeah.
And also to realize that we all have something. We might think that our story is a tough story and the person next to you, because they're of this background or this background, they're not carrying anything. We're all carrying something. And how can we have that kind of understanding and sympathy, if not empathy, to go, we're in this together. And regardless of our background, I want to be a better version of myself. She wants to be a better version of herself. And let's just operate from a place of kindness to help each other walk each other home.
That's beautiful. Whoa, that's powerful. I want to talk a little bit about your amazing kids. I know that, one of them's graduated college and she's got a very successful social entrepreneurship project that she's running. And then one of them is in college and he's thriving and doing great and playing volleyball. And I want you to update us a little bit on them. But one of the things I want you to answer is, what's your biggest flex in terms of your kids and who they've become?
When you say flex,
Flex, like
how I've shaped them, or the thing I'm most proud of about them?
they're both.
Well, I'm so grateful for my relationship with my kids. It's the biggest blessing I've had, and I really am thankful for the divorce, because if I look back, had it not been the divorce, I wouldn't have been as hands-on as I was. So because I just dove in because of that at such a young age. I was taking my daughter to ballet and I was doing all the things you were doing too. So the biggest flex is the fact that I know they know they're loved unconditionally by me. And I know that they love me unconditionally. So that unconditional love that I was craving, young Seth was craving, I have that from my kids and for my kids. And that's the ultimate gift. And I want them, of course, to thrive and be proud of all their achievements. But mostly, I want them to feel like they're happy and whole in their hearts, and that they feel like they can be the fullest expression of themselves in the world, whatever that is. And my son, is amazing. He might be a teacher or coach or work in a nonprofit. I don't know what he's going to do. My daughter's more like, take on, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. But whatever they want to do, I just want them to know that they're enough, they're loved. And I'm just so grateful for the fact that I know it's full circle. That they're like, Dad, you've worked so hard. They would keep saying, Dad, just it's your time, relax. Because I'm always just a creator, right? I create all sorts of new things and businesses and nonprofits, organizations. And I know that they don't need me to do any of that, that the love from them is just complete.
Wow, that's powerful, man. For the listeners out there, something to learn, I think, is this idea as a parent. And again, we're talking about, you could have kids, you could be parenting them, but also I'm talking about self-parenting, right? Like what you tell yourself. And what I'm learning from Seth is this idea that you have to have unconditional love. And unconditional love is essentially your ability to know in your heart that no matter what you do, what mistakes you make, when you show up home to your parent, that parent's going to say, hey, bring it in. I love you. Let's correct this. Let me help you grow from it. But I'm not going to humiliate you. I'm not gonna, beat you, and I'm not gonna psychologically break you because you made a mistake out there. Of course, we're gonna hold you accountable. We're gonna make sure that you correct this mistake, but there's always gonna be love here for you no matter what you do, how hard you work, or maybe how quote unquote lazy you were that day. We'll correct that, but there's always gonna be unconditional love. And as a self parent to yourself, just telling yourself this on your own when you make a mistake. Hey, you messed up. And that wasn't cool what you did. But you know what? You're gonna correct it. You're gonna make things better. You're gonna go apologize, and you're gonna be a better person tomorrow. So that's the unconditional love that I'm learning from Seth right now that he's talking about with his kids.
If
One,
I could
go
just
ahead.
touch on
Yeah.
that, yeah, the growth mindset is something that I think is really important for parents. I'm good friends with Eduardo Braceno, who's an expert on growth mindset. He's published a bunch of books on it and studied with Carol Dweck, who was kind of the founder of it. And the growth mindset talks about, it's kind of how you fail forward, how you keep learning and growing. And there's two camps in the growth mindset. There's the performance zone and there's the learning zone. And so in the performance zone, that's when you don't want to fail. You want to execute on the thing, do well in the basketball game or on the test. You don't want to fail. But then the learning zone is when you actually want to fail. You want to experiment. You want to try new things. And telling our kids, hey, this is a learning zone time. Go out there and try the ceramics class. And if the clay spins off the wheel, or if you miss the basketball hoop, don't worry. You're just having fun. You're learning. And then there is a time when, hey, we want you to do well. This is the SATs. We want you to focus, have a good breakfast, and do well on the tests. So understanding the growth mindset, I think, is a really helpful tool. And then the other one that I've learned as far as relationships between not just parent and child, but any friend, spouse, partner, etc., is understanding. And this is Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo, who's a friend of mine. She's a psychologist, and she talks about there's kind of a half circle above and a half circle below. And on the half circle above, this is what happens when someone has their external behavior. So if someone does something, you judge them usually based on their external behavior. But then on the bottom half of the circle are the intentions. So the intentions behind the behavior. So when someone cuts you off in traffic, the external behavior is they cut me off, and you're like, hey, you're a jerk. But maybe the intention was they're trying to get their wife to the hospital because she's having in labor. So when someone triggers you, or when you feel triggered, which is the truth, how can you try to, before reacting to the trigger, try to understand what was their intention, and was there some goodness behind their intention? Usually there is. If we can get to that intention space, we can really minimize conflict.
Yeah, that's powerful. It reminds me of the story of the Buddhist monk who asked his student. He says, "Hey, if someone comes by, right, and you're holding a cup of coffee, and they push you and you spill the coffee all over you, you get burned by it."
Yeah.
He goes, why did you spill the coffee? And the student says, "Oh, it's because I got pushed, right?" And the monk is like, "No, it's because you had coffee in the cup." And then he goes, "I want you to reflect. Like if you had water, it would have been water that spilled." He goes, "Whatever you carry in the cup, that's what's going to spill when life pushes you. So if you carry fear, fear's going to spill all over the place when life pushes you. If you carry hope, hope's going to spill all over the place, and then you could move past being pushed by life."
Yeah.
So for my listeners out there, just always remember, it's what you carry with you. If you got that hope with you, then life will be hopeful when bad times come. If you're carrying fear, anger, it's that anger that's going to come out when someone shows up and pushes you. I was telling this group of young people this story of the other day at Costco. Man, I go to Costco, buy groceries for the family, and this guy, man, he just blatantly cut in front of me in this cart, literally, road rage kind of thing. Pushed his cart almost into my cart and got in front of me, and I just went instantly. Those balled my fists up, and then I thought about it. Right, I got to practice what I preach. Self-regulation. So I took a breath, and I just looked at him, and I felt like a punk, but I just decided to give him the spot. And so I pulled my cart back instead of pushing it forward and, confronting him. And so I looked at him, and he looked at me like he was ready to fight me if I was ready. So then I asked the kids, I said, "Hey, what if I would have thrown down with him?" And the kids are like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." They get excited. They're like, "Oh, yeah." And then what would have security done? What is it? oh yeah, you would have gone to jail probably. They would have probably taken both of you to jail. I'm like, yeah, we would have assaulted each other and we'd be in jail. And then my kid had a baseball game that evening. So would I have been in there for his game? They're like, no, you would have been doing time. I go, it's a Friday night. And they go, oh, mister, you wouldn't have got out till Monday because they know the booking process, right?
Yeah.
You're booked on Friday night. You don't get out till Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, mister, you would have missed the whole weekend with your family. And I'm like, exactly. So I pull back, look at the guy. He pays. He's looking at me. I'm kind of just like looking at him. And as he's leaving, I go, hey, bro. Hey, bro. Hey, have a good day. And then he looks at me and he goes, hey, you have a good day too. And he smiles. And then he left and I ran into him in the parking lot.
Really?
And instead of like this tension, right, he was already like smiling. And so he was just, he didn't apologize, but he was kind of like kind of his way of thanking me,
Yeah.
like just like
Yeah.
his spirit was uplifted. And I felt good because in that moment I realized that, like you said, maybe the guy just got diagnosed with cancer. I don't know. And maybe that's why he's being angry. Or maybe his wife got diagnosed with cancer. He's trying to get her food right away.
Exactly.
But it's that explanation that we don't know where we got to be a little bit more compassionate and also self-regulate so that we don't end up carrying a cup full of anger and letting it spill over when someone pushes us.
Yeah. I always said to my kids, instead of reacting, you can be response able. That's what responsible is. Be response able. So you have the ability, the event happens plus your reaction equals the outcome. So I'd say E plus R equals O. E's always happen. Events are going to happen. The guy in Costco is going to happen. But the R, you get to control your response, which you did. And then that equals O, the outcome, which was actually a peaceful exit from Costco and kind of like a little acknowledgement with the guy.
Yeah.
We can control the R. You can't control the E, but by controlling the R, the response, and being response able, you get the outcome that's going to serve you.
That's powerful. Great analysis. Yeah, one of the people that taught me about parenting, was my father-in-law. His name's Enrique. And when I met him, I was still finishing college. And I was so intrigued because he had sent two girls to college. He had raised two girls and sent them to college. And I was really intrigued because I didn't know a lot of people that had gone to college. And I was like, I even did I had a class in psychology and they wanted us to do an interview of someone that we admired. And so I asked him if I could interview him about parenting. So I interviewed Enrique, and this is 30 years ago. And I asked him, I said, hey, how'd you do it? And he drew two boxes for me. He drew one big box and one little box inside of it. And he said, look, if you raise a kid with a tiny box and the kids inside that tiny box, that's going to limit them. That's just going to stop them from growing, from understanding the world, from experimenting, from knowing anything but what you're teaching them. And that's, your helicopter parent, really. And then he goes, and look at this giant box. He goes, if you let a kid kind of just roam free with no kind of limits, they start to get in trouble because there's no one there to guide them when they fall. They're just falling and falling and falling and not learning from the fall. He goes, in life, you got to let kids fall and be there to catch them or to pick them up or teach them better, teach them how to pick themselves up. So when you're gone in life, they've learned how to pick themselves up without you around. And I remember that framework, and luckily, man, I got to write about it in my psychology class and come up with the concepts for it. And have a beautiful kind of interview with him where he's talking about this. And I kid you not, man, every day that I've been raising my kids, I think about where am I in the box and where are the kids in the box? Am I being too restrictive? Am I, telling them what they should be doing? Am I not there present right now as we speak? Or am I just giving them the freedom that they want? And I think parents out there kind of have to understand that, balance that world out of letting go, but then being there to catch the kids when they're when they're in that need of support.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, now I want to shift over to purpose because I know I know you even had an event recently where you had the privilege of working alongside people like Deepak Chopra.
Mm.
I mean, one of the top world
So
experts
blessed. Yeah. Amazing.
on enlightenment, really.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, and then walk me through this new journey you have of really helping people find purpose.
Sure. Well, as an entrepreneur, my mindset before was always having push energy. So I believe, push energy is essentially I'm good at coming up with the vision, the idea, building the team, charging the hill, executing quarterly, and like pushing my way to success. And I've done that with running marathons, doing an Ironman, starting nonprofits, for profits. And now that I'm a coach and leading retreats, I'm actually flexing my pull energy, which is I don't have an agenda. I'm just allowing doors to open, doors to close, and trusting they're the right ones. There's a great book called The Surrender Experiment. It's kind of like the surrender experiment that I follow. And so, in the spirit of that, I was asked to give a talk in Malibu last year with four other women. And one woman there from Finland said, "Hey, would you ever like to go to, Davos, this amazing World Economic Forum location?" And so I was like, "I'd love to go to Davos in Switzerland." And yeah, part of the surrender experiment. And it turned into later, she said, "Well, we're going to get you a speaking spot. And by the way, you're not going to be able to speak alone. You're going to speak with someone else." I'm like, "Okay, who is it?" "It's Deepak Chopra." I'm like, wow. So it just happened. I didn't have an agenda for it. It was just a blessing. And we spoke on leadership in the era of AI, conscious leadership in the era of AI. And we got to talk about wisdom, shifting from a knowledge economy to a wisdom economy. We got to speak about compassion leadership, and we got to speak a lot about purpose. And so I love this subject of purpose, giving people a why to help them wake up. And I think young people more than ever need to really cultivate their sense of purpose.
Wow, that's powerful. And we got some research here. Um, 38% of young adults reported lacking purpose in a recent study, a 2022 study, driving a lot of anxiety and depression we're seeing. Because, see, if you don't have purpose, you're kind of roaming around the world believing you're an accident in the universe. Like some meteor just is floating around and you're going nowhere. But if you have purpose, you know exactly where you're headed, you know what you were placed on this earth for, and you know who you're going to help, and the world, the world that you're going to create for yourself and for others. There's another study. William Damon he has a book called Path to Purpose. Mentions that 25% of teens, only 25% of teens, have a clear idea of their purpose. As parents, teachers, community members, how do we help young people find purpose?
I mean, I think it's celebrating following the breadcrumbs of curiosity. Right? What is the child interested in? And following those breadcrumbs of curiosity then allows them to, I always like to say, start with a purpose portfolio. A purpose doesn't have to be one thing. Like, I found my purpose, it's solving climate change, or it's, helping homelessness or food scarcity, or it could be, gosh, I kind of like being in outdoors. I like nature. I'm kind of artistic. I have a sense of adventure. I'm pretty good at like getting along with people, and I like math, whatever, right? It's a portfolio of interests. And then you find ways to then intersect those, right? So this Venn diagram of your innate gifts, your skills that you acquire through life experience and education, your greatest passions, what you love to do, and then what the world needs most, or what is a huge trend. So you intersect your gifts with your skills, with your passion, with what the world needs most, and that can be your unique contribution, and that's where your purpose can reside. So it's not like they have to find the one thing. They should just follow what their interests are and maybe have some mentors, and just keep trying new things and start to go where the highest inspiration is. And where the highest inspiration is, typically you're going to have passion, you're going to have some ability, and then you're going to find ways that your unique gifts can contribute down that path, which will become your purpose.
Let's talk a little bit about money, because I got, audience members that are like, listeners that are like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to make money.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, it's easy for me to say to them, hey, become financially literate and then make money. And the truth is, I was never financially literate until after I became successful in my profession and then learned how to be financially literate. So it's like a hypocrisy for me to say become financially literate and then you'll make money, right?
Yeah.
But we all stumble upon ways to, make some kind of have some kind of financial freedom, I guess is what I would call it. And for me, it was getting a PhD, becoming a college professor,
Mhm.
starting a business. Um, your net worth is in multi-millions. And I just want to put that out there so my audience is like, whoa, they just, I don't get to talk to a lot of multi-millionaires out there, and I know that that's not the worth you put on yourself alone, but like for audience members out there, it's like, man, how did this guy do it? How did he become this multi-millionaire? How'd you get here?
Yeah. Well, and just to level set, I was privileged in that I had a mom and dad that were home. My dad worked for the government. My mom was a teacher. My brother was a cop. So I had a stable home, but by no means did we have a lot of money. And I had that grind, like no matter what, I'm not going to fail mentality. So when I was starting my career in Los Angeles as a young financial advisor, I had no salary. I had huge credit card debts. I was driving my stick shift Jetta, and I couldn't stop for lunch. I didn't let myself stop for lunch. So I bought cans of soup I kept in my trunk with a can opener, and I would just pull the car over. I'd use a can opener. I'd drink cold cans of soup, and those were my meals because I didn't give myself the permission to stop and go get a burrito or anything. I was like, just keep grinding, Streeter. Don't give up. So I kind of started from those beginnings of just don't fail. And fortunately enough, I started to find my path of where my gifts were. And it was really connecting with people. It was helping them with their life goals, which, yes, financial planning and investment management is part of it. But I was really good at helping people uncover that kind of dream within them and then to help come up with a game plan for how to achieve that dream. And when you do something well, there's a way to get compensated for it. And I was very fortunate to co-found a company 25 years ago, Mission Wealth, that now is this national firm. And so starting a business obviously helped. But I also was a good steward of my wealth. I didn't waste it. I always saved it. I tried to be smart with, setting up IRAs and compounding interest and things. But I would say the best advice I can give someone who's young who doesn't have wealth today, and maybe they just have some credit card debt and, a couple, clothing and maybe an old beat up car, and that's all they have, right? I would say you are the asset. Invest in yourself. Allow yourself to be the primary asset in your life. Call up any company, any person you know who you think has had some degree of success, and ask if they'd give you just a 1 hour, coffee date to ping their brain about like what is it that's helped you, serve you in life. And there's so many amazing TikToks and Instagram posts now of people that are telling these success stories. So just become the steward of success by your own definition and find mentors out there. They're everywhere. They could just be on YouTube channels and start to really think about what floats your boat, what lights you up, and how can you bring yourself fully into that space, and then go out there and start doing it. And so I think about capital, not just being financial capital, but there's social capital, right? There's goodwill capital. There's creative capital. So if you've been making music or you've been doing art or you've been writing, that's your creative capital. How can you use your different assets in your life? There's spiritual capital, kind of your essence. There's intellectual capital. You're reading, you're learning. So being able to think about your wealth in this holistic way, find groups of people that are ahead of you in whatever way you believe is ahead of you, and then ask them for help. Be curious, be open, be hungry, be a constant learner in that learning zone of the growth mindset. And you're going to find that there's going to be doors that will open for you. Talk to yourself the way you need to talk to yourself. Be your own coach and allow yourself to say, I can be whatever I want to be. Even though I was raised in an environment that didn't show me examples of that, I can go out there and find those examples and I can be that better version of myself. So I think that, frankly, we have so much privilege and opportunity, especially with AI right now. It's so exciting. And I just want kids to know that there's hope, there's unlimited opportunity. Just put yourself in an environment that can come forward for yourself. Stop limiting your beliefs and start opening up and walking through the grass in a new way so that you can have the life you want to live.
Said it well. Said it well. All right. So in this final segment, Real with Rios now, we're going to shift into this segment where we kind of talk a little bit about like a little bit more depth into kind of another layer of Seth Streeter. And I'll preface it with this. So I like fixing things ever since I was a little kid. And I'll pick up old broken TVs, and I'll try to fix them. Half the time I didn't succeed, but I would always have everything torn apart. And then and patch it together. And sometimes if I found a second broken TV, I could Frankenstein it and
Yeah.
turn it into one TV. And more recently, I've been working on this project car with my son, teaching him a little bit, and my daughters too, teaching them a little bit about working on old school rides. And so I like fixing things, and I think of myself as like, okay, how can I translate that into fixing things in my life and helping others fix things? So if you could fix anything in your life today,
Mm,
what would you fix?
mm. I would fix my enoughness wound that, believe it or not, still exists today. That
Enoughness wound.
that that easy trigger that if I feel like I've disappointed someone or if I haven't contributed what I'm capable of, that I get really hard on myself.
Mm.
And I could say, here's all these things I've achieved, I've done, I'm so blessed. But there's still that part of me that is mean to myself, that I'm a hard ass to myself. And I can't blame it on anyone else. It's like I'm carrying this forward. And I can talk about walking through the grass, but there's times that my enoughness wound gets flared. Could be in a relationship, could be just inner talk, could be at work. And so I would work on that. I would fix that. So that part of me that still is hard on myself would just have more grace, more acceptance, and give me a little lighter of a leash to just skip through life and not just always have to be doing the next thing.
Mm. Enoughness wound. And talking to you about parenting today, it sounds like maybe part of it came from the way that you were brought up, but the other part might be also um, the way that you've self-parented too, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So even as we say out there, in the hood, you're triple OG, right? Like you've been there, done that in
Yeah.
terms of life experience, raising kids, being successful. Um, and even so, man, you continue to grow. Like you're like, hey, I still I'm helping others find enlightenment and purpose,
Hmm.
but I still gotta make sure that I don't continue to follow that
Yeah.
wound and find ways to continue to heal it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I always try to choose the unfamiliar path because I know that's where growth is. It's
Mm.
easy to stay where it's familiar in life, the same people, the same place, the same activities. I'm always putting myself in uncomfortable environments, brand new, different types of people, doing things that scare me because I know that's how I can continue to grow. And I like actually being in environments where I know I'm not going to do well because I know if I stay in the same small sandbox, it's going to get smaller and smaller because as you get older, you can never be the best at kind of that narrow focus. So I try to keep flexing unfamiliar. And I moved to Austin, recently. I've done all sorts of different workshops. I've tried all sorts of things from, skydiving, river rafting, rappelling. Those are physical activities, but then I had to go sing in public and get recorded at the top of my lungs in a big public street. I've done a lot of things that are uncomfortable just to face that fear, to know that, Seth, you're okay. I've done the TED Talk and stuff. I've faced my fear because now I see fear as my guide.
Fear as your guide and not the cup that you're walking around with
Mhm.
spilling everywhere. That's powerful. For me, if I could change anything in my life today, it'd be um, keeping up. And meaning like I have a lot of friends or loved ones,
Mhm.
family, and I'm bad at just keeping up with people, like
Yeah.
texting them, calling them, checking in on them,
Mhm.
or even some of the young people I've worked with. I think about them all the time,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's just like I make the excuse there's not enough time, but I can find time to keep up and continue to make those connections. And you've actually taught me about keeping up because you're someone that every time I see you, you tell me the story. Hey man, look at this picture. I met this young guy. He was over here. I was at the airport. I said, hey, how you doing, man? I like your shirt. And he
Mhm.
was like, hey, cool, man. And I'm here and I'm a young filmmaker. And you talk to him for an hour and all of a sudden you're at his film premiere and then you meet other people there and then he meets other people and
Yeah.
and before you know it, you build a wolf pack that you would have never, ever imagined you would put together
Mhm.
because you decided that you wanted to keep up even with a stranger. And so thanks for inspiring me to do that. And I'm a make a commitment to keep up better than I've kept up before, because we're always growing, right, Seth?
We're always growing, my brother.
Hey.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Seth, it's been wonderful having you. Thank you so much. It's been a beautiful conversation, and thank you for sharing some of your insight and wisdom. I appreciate you. To my audience, thank you so much for being here, for listening. I hope you took some great tools from Seth Streeter. I hope that you continue on growing and developing. And remember, if your parents out there, if you are parents, remember, treat your kids right. Give them that unconditional love. Remember, they're always going to do well. They're always going to remember the times that you were there for them, giving them that love and support. And if you're too hard on them, hey, take it easy. If you're too easy on them, hey, hold them accountable sometimes. And always remember, those of you that are kind of just listening and trying to figure out life, be your own self-parent. If someone did you wrong growing up, be your own self-parent. Take care of yourself. Stay positive, stay hopeful, and keep that cup full of hope, full of love, and full of purpose. Until next time, Dr. Victor Rios, Sueños to Success. Take care.